Hey, welcome back. Another episode of Elektron Talk, number 25. My name's Matthew, aka EZBOT, and this is the music show thing that I do most every Sunday, roughly around 7 o'clock. Today's stream is sponsored by DistroKid, so thank you to DistroKid for sponsoring the stream and allowing me to not have to monetize this in any way other than that. So more on that later. We're actually going to upload a track that I wrote with Livecoding and ORCA into DistroKid and publish it live today. So that's what we're going to do to show off how cool and easy it is to use DistroKid. We'll get back to that later. But right now, what we're here to talk about is the Octatrack, mostly. And on my Patreon, not on Ko-fi, I did release my performance template. What's up, Brian? Performance template 2.3.1. It's 0.1 because I'm already finding bugs. And that's just part of the process. Sometimes I would release the performance template in a beta version, and then it's beta, so it's like there's it's not a final release. It's probably full of bugs. I didn't really beta test this one. I kind of just released it because it's not too much of an upgrade to the original template. There are some things I did change. I did change some effects and changed a couple of put things into what I'd call sweet spots. Sorry, I was just reading a comment. Robot Snake asked what camera I'm using. This is a Sony FX30. So it is a cinema camera. And this is a LUT that I use on all of my stuff. So it's my LUT. Anyway, forget that. It's cool. Yeah, I love camera stuff. But anyway, back to the performance template 2.3.1. There's some stuff I put in sweet spots, like the reverb, the delay, the chorus, and the stereoizer, or whatever it's called. I always forget the name of it for whatever reason. And I put those in sweet spots when you just turn the mix up on the SHIK MIDI controller, which is what we're going to demo today. And I'm probably going to find bugs with you live, so you're going to experience that. Maybe I'll share what it's like to fix it too, because it's an ordeal. Actually, maybe I won't do that. I don't know. We'll see. But I wanted to integrate MIDI controller work with my Octatrack performance template. It's just kind of like the cherry on top with the performance template. And, the Octatrack doesn't love that idea. This is the SHIK MIDI controller here. And thank you, SHIK. I think that's the name of their company is SHIK. It's not called the SHIK, it's called the N32P. But SHIK has been really cool to me. They've been very gracious. And they hooked me up with this controller so that I could do this integration partly. And they might be adding some features to the software to make it more usable with the Octatrack. There's some stuff in it. It's lacking a couple of things in its current state that would be really useful to use with the Octatrack and to use with the performance template, but to use with any synthesizer, in my opinion, would be some offsets, some min-max for your pots, but also, hopefully my voice isn't too hot. Live coding never goes wrong. Yeah. Min-max would be really cool, so I'm hoping that SHIK adds min-max to this on a per pot basis. And also, this is one of the few controllers at the price point that it has that does DIY and looks nice, but also has macro control. So each one of these controls could be two separate controls, and I do have the option to make each one of those controls bipolar, which I did take advantage of in a couple of spots. For instance, on the Octatrack low pass filter, you don't turn the low pass filter left to right, you turn it right to left. So, or counterclockwise. So that low pass filter, to have it work with these pots, because these pots only go clockwise, you have to invert that scaling. So that's really nice that it has that. So the macro controls with the inversion, I love that. If it adds min-max and MIDI channel on a per macro basis, so as I turn one controller, not only can I do min-max inversion, but I want to also be able to have those macro controls affect different MIDI channels in the Octatrack, and that would just really open up this controller big time. I do have a couple other controllers that can do a lot of powerful features as well, like the FaderFox EC4, which I also really like. So I'm turning my mic volume down a little bit. I think it's a little hot. So I really like the FaderFox EC4. That's my original pick to mix with the Octatrack. That is a very expensive controller, and it's overwhelming for a lot of people to program. This controller is not. I really want to pair my performance template and my stuff that I do. Like, I love sharing this with people and having it be a part of a community, and that's been something that we've managed to do really well. Like the EZBOT Discord is, the numbers in there are crazy. We've got like over 2,000 people in there now. And it's just a really fun, engaged, and kind community, a lot of giving and sharing. And I can count on people in there to try this stuff out and test it out, and people do, and it's really nice. But I also want people to be able to have access to things that aren't too expensive. Like if the Octatrack already is a very expensive device, and to have to spend another $400 on a MIDI controller just to have some per knob function, it can be daunting for some folks. So I really like the idea. What's up, Dominique? I really like the idea of having a more affordable MIDI controller, and I think that SHIK can pull it off. And so yeah, fingers crossed for that. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about what I did here. So I mapped on the SHIK. If you hold down this bottom button, it'll move you into presets with the SHIK controller. I've already held it down, that's why I'm able to go up and down on these buttons, and they'll move you through presets. So preset 1 is part 1 on the Octatrack. Preset 2 is part 2, so on and so forth, you get it. So all of these controls are mapped in that fashion. I don't have this all drawn out with like tape and color for you to see what's happening, but essentially it goes like this. This section here, these knobs, all the way down to here, they're all inputs A and B and control the effects that are on inputs A and B. So they control the effects on track 1 and track 2. This section here, all the way down to here, if you have the PDF from my Patreon, which is, if you want to see what I've done and see all the CC messages and all that, that's all available on my Patreon. And it will allow you to map my performance template if you're a performance template user, or if you just, well, pretty much if you're a performance template user, yeah. It'll allow you to map it to whatever MIDI controller you currently own, because I have all the CC messages there and what effect it does and what it's doing with that effect. So feel free to just experiment with your own controller. But on this one, it splits them in half, and then these 4 pots in the middle control the master effect. And in the techno section, which is part 4, this whole bottom row controls the master section. And my plan is, moving forward, I'm making a brand new template, and I'm excited to actually work on it now more than I have been. I've started it a few times, I've stopped a few times because I haven't been so sure about what I wanted to do. But now I'm fairly certain about how I'm going to do it. I'm going to stick with 4-bar looper, except for I'm going to have 2 through tracks with 2 neighbor tracks each. And so each input is always going to have access to delay into a reverb. And I think that that's a pretty important feature to have access to. And also multiple filters and a lot of different effects. So I'm going to be able to just give people some like more basic effects that the template was missing, you had to switch parts for. The more basic effects will be available in each part. So there'll be just more variations of a lot of standard DJ effects. And I'm excited to have that happen. I'm gonna split up a lot of the effects based on elements, so drum effects versus synth effects, which is already kind of how this runs. So I'm excited about that. Every once in a while you're gonna hear my dog bark. That's what my dog likes to do. It's like just getting further into the dog bark. But let's check it out. Let's have a little listen. Let's see, like I already know that there's some bugs in my SHIK mapping because of, it's just hard to keep track of the files, to be honest, when you're doing this. I was building PDFs, exporting JSON files from the SHIK mapper into a folder, zipping it up, sharing it with my Patreon, sharing it on Discord, and there's just a lot of moving parts for me to do by myself, and I end up screwing stuff up now and then. So hopefully it's not too screwed up right now, but when I first booted it up, I had already found some and I corrected a couple of bugs off the bat. But let's hear a little bit of music and we'll talk about it. I have actual PDF files that you can look at on, like I said, on my Patreon. For me, what I have to look at are these drawings that I made. And that's what I'm gonna use because that's what's in front of me. So I'll start with number one and kind of just talk through it. It's I'm a chicken scratch kind of like handwriting guy, but this is how I do stuff. You know, I got CC messages up here. I got the layout of the controller, so you can see that this is A and B. You can see that this is C and D, and you can see that this is the master section. And so right here at the top, we have access to the filter. So let's just talk about the performance template just for a second, and then we're gonna get through this. We might even get into doing some live coding, because that's actually the project that I was working on before I started streaming today. I'm live coding the Syntakt with ORCA. And I do have that prepared to actually do that live with you as well. So we'll see how far we get. But let's just talk about the template really quick so you can understand what the flip I'm talking about. So when you're using the performance template, what I have designed is 64 macro controls, right? So the Octatrack has got this powerful macro controller, and you can assign it data on a per page basis. Not the secondary messages of the pages, but the first message. Anything you can find in here, I'm able to parameter lock to this crossfader. And I have side A turned off, so it's more like a wet and dry. It's kind of how I'm using it. And I use it to transition from song to song or from part to part in an arrangement. Quantum Monastery, what's up? Yeah, I'm stoked for it too. I'm really excited to get to work on it. Maybe we'll even work on that together and we can talk about it as I'm doing it and see kind of what goes into the project, because it's big. It's a big project to do. Anyhow, so I have all those macro controls. You're using this, you're playing with these machines, but maybe you want to turn sidechain pumping on, but you don't want to turn it on as a scene, and you don't want to go hunting through these tracks to look for which LFO I used for sidechain pumping. Well, you don't have to worry about that anymore because I have it mapped to the controller. So on 3 of the presets here, you'll always be able to just turn on sidechain pumping. It's gonna automatically sidechain 4 on the floor. If you don't want it to be 4 on the floor, you have to go in and manually move the spots where you sidechain, but you're always gonna have access to that. So I think that's cool, and the controller gives you that access. I honestly think that I could get plenty out of this if the controller was only half the size. It would actually do the trick in its current state. When I have the new template made, it's gonna use all the pots more effectively. Right now there's some controls in here that like, they function, they do what they're supposed to do, but it's not, I'm not impressed with the action that happens from them because I'm using macro controls. They're linear macro controls. They don't have any specific scaling, so they are one-to-one with each other. For instance, I have a high pass filter that also turns on the reverb, but at 50-50, the high pass is just taking all the content out and the reverb's only at 50% wet. So that didn't work, right? And I thought it would work, or I thought maybe that 50% reverb was gonna be enough and that there would be some sound there, but it really isn't. And I'll show that to you. I'll show you my mistakes as well. But yeah, let me put some music on really fast. We'll start with something a little bouncy. Let's get some bass notes going. Okay, so we have some tunes going. And I can show you that this top section here now is a filter. We have low pass, high pass. I'll actually stop that for a second as I'm demonstrating this. We have low pass, high pass, your resonance or Q. And then right here we have a macro control, which is a high pass with Q. And that one did work out really well. Check this out. So this one control is giving me a really resonant high pass filter on just the A and B inputs, and I still have access to my scenes. So that's really cool. I like how that one turned out. But here now we can manually play with the filter. It's a very techno-inspired vibe. So we can low pass, let's give it some Q. And we can high pass it too. We can make some sort of like band pass style sounds. This is all just on A and B, and we can turn that reverb up. Reload the part. So this is without using the Octatrack's macro controls. Put these back. So here's the thing. I know that made a crazy sound because when I reloaded the part, it reloaded to a freeze delay because the crossfader was fully engaged during the reload. So there's a lot of moving parts. You can try it again. Let's do it again. There we go. then you have to turn those down. So because these pots don't, because these pots aren't endless encoders, which is a problem, honestly. That's one of the big problems here, is that CC send messages on the Octatrack require you to put down a CC message on the MIDI side of things. That's actually CC number 61, I believe, and it sends a message to a MIDI controller saying that it will, or no, it's on a, yeah. It sends a message saying that the Octatrack will send out its audio CC messages so that it can be listened to, and then it will work with a relative controller, a controller that will control the values in a relative way. Forgive me if this is just mumbo jumbo to you, but the point is that without the Octatrack receiving MIDI messages, or sending MIDI messages and receiving MIDI messages like to an endless encoder, we have these snapping actions that will happen when we move a pot. So when I do this, and I high pass this, and I reload the part, sure, it goes back to where it should be. And that's really important. Remember to reload your parts all the time when you're using the mapping. But I now need to, if I move this, we're back in that high pass again. And that's because it's not a relative adjustment. So it's not adjusting it based on where its value is. In that moment, it's an absolute value. So it's taking it over every time. And that's just how it works with the Octatrack. That's just the way it is. And the only way for you to have it to be any other way is endless encoders, and to send that message from the Octatrack out to the controller, so the controller is listening to those messages, and it's like a two-way street. The Octatrack has to tell this thing it's where it's at, and then have to receive a value to move it at the same time. And so it's a little bit difficult. So what I realized would be the best method would be to, when I remake this template, and it will be much better in this way, is that these controls over here, they're really gonna be, like, I'll have the filter controls because they're necessary for like techno work and stuff, and you'll just have to get good and just, turn them at the same time and you'll be fine. But most of these are just gonna be dry wet, essentially. So it's gonna be like turn up the chorus on A and B, turn up the reverb on another, turn up the delay, turn up a filter. So it's just gonna be a lot of like absolute controls that are okay for you to just add manually and then twist back and stuff like that. So that's gonna be more of the plan moving forward in terms of MIDI controller integration. Maybe MIDI controller integration isn't really important to you as an Octatrack user. It's never been important to me. I just wanted to add it because I thought it would be cool for the improv users. So a lot of people do an improv, they want more control on their Octatrack than they have just in the Octatrack. Like you'll see Surgeon, he's using a PC12 Vader Fox with his Octatrack, or at least he does in that, that producer's video, I forget what that's on, but he does. It's a great example of what you could do with it, but he's just turning up reverbs so that he doesn't have to do it on the Octatrack. He's turning up reverbs and delays. And that's essentially kind of what this will end up being, except for it'll work with 64 different scenes. So you'll be able to augment your current scene's value too, which will be pretty cool. So let's go over some more of the stuff with it. So right now we're on part one, and we're looking at part one. Let's hear some music. So we have the low pass filter, low pass, high pass, Q, high pass with Q for the left side. On this side, it's the same thing. So we have our filter settings for both. We could actually do independent. This is something you couldn't do before with just the Octatrack. We're actually doing high pass and Q at the same time on two different inputs at the same time. So that's the power of the MIDI controller. This is what you want to do at a show, trust me, this gets everybody moving. So some more controls on part one. We have the reverb control, A and B. We have reverb control, C and D. So you can do some build-ups that way. Down below that, we have distortion. This is kind of a funny one. So when I was doing the mapping for the lo-fi, because lo-fi is just a collection of different, degradation effects. And it has distortion, it has bit rate reduction, it has sample rate reduction. So sample rate reduction is like, sounds more like just like lo-fi, and bitrate reduction starts turning into like tracker-esque, like demo scene sounds. And then distortion is an amplifier that's like over-gaining it, right? At least that's how I think this Octatrack one is emulating it. But it's definitely makes it get really, really loud. So what I did is I one-to-one mapped the distortion with the track level for inputs A and B, and that actually did work, but there's a certain point where the track level gets to 0 and the distortion gets maxed to where you just have no volume because the track level's essentially at 0. So I ended up going back to just the distortion, and you just have to be gentle with it. But yeah, it gets really loud, right? Doesn't even sound like it's distorting much, but those are the controls of the lo-fi, so maybe somebody will find that useful, but... So this is cool to be able to just turn that on. Here we are in this like lo-fi thing, high passing the other side, putting some reverb on that. So this is all happening in the SHIK controller. We're not even touching the Octatrack. We still have all these cool scenes. We can still do hit yes. We can arm our recorder. So here's something we would do at a live show. Arm the recorder, go into a 4-bar loop. And here we are in a 4-bar loop. We can go out of these settings, put them back to where they were originally. And we're back to our music, right? So that's cool. I do think that's cool and pretty useful. And that's kind of one of the bonuses of having an external MIDI controller. So there's more, there's a lot more effects. There's a ton. I mapped everything. This little section here, this is like a macro section. So this is supposed to be a high pass with reverb, and it is. High pass is the right side with reverb. This one is reverb plus mix. So like right here, it's like a really short time reverb with the mix short. And the more you go, it goes to the mix and the time just gets huge. Want to reload your part after you use some of the effects. And then this one is a low pass with reverb. Just makes this like really soft texture. Nice for a breakdown. And then at the bottom here, we have rhythm distortion. Check this one out. So this is an effect I made using the SHIK controller and an LFO and a macro control on the SHIK controller. So it's timed. It's a time-based effect. I think it's kind of cool. You can mix it with other effects. So some of these are turning out pretty good. I'm actually pretty happy with this at the moment. Bitrate reduction here. If you turn up bitrate reduction too much, it reduces the bits down to nothing, and then you don't hear anything, so silence. And this is amplitude modulation with the frequency tied to it. And then amp pan plus mod. So this is an effect I made using LFOs. It makes it really wide. It's an okay effect. And then this is a master high pass, low pass filter. High pass with Q. High pass, low pass, Q. High pass, Q. Okay. Sidechain pumping right here. Sidechain. Here we go. Really make that sidechain stand up right here. No sidechain. Sidechain. Nice. All right, this is amp pan mod, but on the other side. So that is just one of the 4 mappings I did. These templates and mappings, they take a ridiculously long time. I'm not gonna lie. They're definitely an undertaking. Like as I was doing this, sorry, that was probably loud with the microphone, but as I was mapping the SHIK controller, I was like, holy Lord, what have I gotten myself into? This is gonna take forever. And it did, especially since I made diagrams for everything. Let's check out part 2. I'm gonna keep using the same music for this because this song's got like a pretty clean mix and there's not too many elements, but there's enough on each side so it demonstrates it really well without being really muddy. So this is part 2. We have to go to part 2 here on the Octatrack. So I switch over to part 2. If you have the template, it would be called Explorer. Part 2, it's part 2 for me because this is my personal version of the template. And then what we do is we are going to part 2 on the SHIK controller now. So we just hit the up button and that takes us to part 2. So you see it even says P1 and P2, part 1, part 2. It's perfect. So that aligns very well with the Octatrack. So let's check that out. I also do want to see how the chat here is doing. Chat seems like it's doing pretty good. Hope everyone is well. Thank you for hanging out. Now we're gonna take a look at part 2 here on the Octatrack and the SHIK template. So all of the SHIK template mappings for Performance Template 2.3, I'll talk about how you load it up too. I don't know if I'm not gonna screen share how you drop it into it, but I'll just talk about it. It's a very simple process to loading it after we go through some of these effects. All of the 4 parts on the SHIK and the 4 parts on the Octatrack have some similar mappings. All of the top sections, so all 4 of these, they're always gonna be high pass, low pass Q and a high pass plus Q for separate sides across all 4 parts. All 4 parts are gonna have a master section. All 4 parts are gonna be split like that down the middle, so you can anticipate that being the same. But the PDF files on Patreon should be enough for you. If I work out enough of the bugs and kinks, I'll throw this on Coffee. And for those who don't like to join Patreon or can buy it and download it off there, maybe I'll have that done by the end of the night. We'll find out. So for this first one, again, like I said, we have all the filters up there and they work. It works just as it should. So on part 2 here, we have the delay mix. Right? Yeah. Oh, the volume's down. There we go. And all the filtering is down. There it is. Time should be at 48. Okay, here we go. So I found a bug. The default settings had gotten adjusted. So let's make a little note. Adjust delay settings on part 2. Track 1. Cool. Well, we fixed it for now, so I can save that in my template, but it's probably not fixed in, or maybe it's not a problem in the other one, honestly. Mine is different, so I'll go ahead and save that. Yeah, so section 2 here, this is your delay. So we have delay, we have time, we have feedback, and then we have low pass filter of the delay. So these are things you can operate independently while you're using the Octatrack. Austin Amberg makes the SHIK tempting. That's great to hear, and I'm sure that I don't actually know their name at SHIK, but I'm sure that they would love to hear that too. So that's good news. I'll pass that along. Maybe they'll watch this video. Hello from Madrid. What's up? Welcome. hello from Seattle, Washington. All right, so we have that delay setting. On the other side, it's a reverb here. With clearly a really low time value. That's fine with me. All right, and then down below here, we have phaser. So here's the mix and the phaser. So now the phaser is independent control of the phaser. Feedback, speed. So that's pretty cool, right? All those effects built in. I think it's cool. Go ahead, reload that part. Do I have any experience with the FaderFox PC12? I sure do. I sure do. And it's not much different than using the SHIK controller. It actually has less controls. And they both use web-based editors. There's a little bit more control in FaderFox stuff. There just is. They've been around a lot longer. They're also like a third of the price more. Especially the EC4, but the PC12 is also a third of the price more than this controller. These are decently affordable. Decently. Nothing is that affordable when it comes to electronic music. Except for that Donner B1, I guess. That thing's real cheap. So below this section, the phaser section, we have the spatializer. So I do have access to that, and I do like the spatial. So this is a cool effect to have in here, I think, on top of your effects in the Octatrack. Cool. So that's the whole left side of part 2. And then down the middle, of course, we have the high pass, low pass Q and the high pass with Q for the master section, which is like, just does the entire mix, which you can use on with these effects in conjunction. Or like. So that's fun. Taking a look at the right side, we have the reverb. I did talk about that already. So here we have another phaser. Doing some real phasey stuff. Listen to that. Some stank. Cool, cool, cool. You always want to reload your part after you use a MIDI controller that doesn't have relative values. That's important. Reload your part because it will leave all of your values at 0. Because once you bring these back to 0, as you zero them out, it'll do the same thing to this. So just remember, function Q, reload your part, and get used to reloading your parts. If you're not familiar with reloading your parts, it's really important. Save your parts, reload your parts. Keep doing that. Save your projects. Name your projects. Name your parts. Mine aren't named right now because this is like me just going crazy. But it is a good idea to name it so you can remember. So down here we have sidechain again. So this pot for part 1 and part 2 on here, same pot. I did have to use a different pot for part 4's sidechain, which made me really sad. That won't happen in the new template. And this is phaser with reverb. So this is a macro control using the SHIK controller. So that's like using an Octatrack. Crossfader. And that's part 2. Part 2. So now let's check out part 3. We hit the up arrow on the SHIK controller. We go to part 3. So I know a lot of people when they're using the Octatrack performance template, they're usually like picking a part. Like it's kind of designed that way. I'm always using the same 2 parts. I usually use part 1 and part 2 for my music. I do a lot of the same stuff. I do a lot of the same effects in my music. I just do, because they always work for me and I'm always having fun with them. So a lot of times I'm using like beat, repeat, and stutter type effects because it makes me feel like I'm in control of the music, or that I'm playing the music, or being a drummer of some sort. I don't know. It just feels good. So, but I think a lot of people, like, they'll be like, I use the techno side of this template. And there's a reason for that. And that's because it's got a master delay and it's got some really nice build-up effects and like big reverbs and stuff. So I think a lot of people are just sticking with a part. So I thought that was cool. I think that's cool because when you choose a part on the SHIK controller and you have a part that you like to work in the template, you can kind of just hang out there and get used to reloading your parts and messing with stuff, and it will work really well for you there. Like if you're performing live and you like to move through a bunch of different parts of the template with the music production that you do. I don't see that many people doing that. I do that, but I made the template, so like I'm very familiar with it, right? So maybe some other folks are doing that too, but for the most part, what I hear is that people like certain parts and they play with those parts particularly over and over again. So when you want to, you do have to change these at the same time. Part 1 and part 2, they need to move together, otherwise they won't work correctly. Burke of Motion, what's up? Why don't you use the Analog 4 Mark II in your setup? In my opinion, this is the most interesting Elektron instrument in terms of sound design depth, also unique unlimited features for performances. That is that's a good question. And you know what? The answer to the question is that I just don't like playing on the Analog 4 very much. That's it. I have an Analog 4 Mark II. I've had it for years. And don't get me wrong, I love it. I'm an Elektron fanboy. Like, there's no way around it. It's just it's a fact. I love the build quality of their products. I love the sound of their products. I love the way they feel. I love the features that they roll out and what they can do. Nothing can replace the Octatrack to this day. The Digitact is my favorite sampler ever. The only thing that competes with these boxes for me right now is the Dirty Wave M8, because the M8 is amazing. That thing is a 10 out of 10. To me, the Digitact's a 10 out of 10. M8's a 10 out of 10. They rival each other in how much I adore them. The Octatrack's an 11 out of 10 because it's very special. It's just a special piece of kit. I almost am buying a third one because I'm nuts. I might do it. Somebody's actually willing to trade me my Analog 4 Mark II, speak of the devil, Burke of Motion, for an Octatrack. And I would have 3 of them at that point. And I'm actually considering it because I really love Octatracks that much. But really the answer to your question is that I just don't enjoy it as much. I think that what's wrong with the Analog 4 Mark II and the reason why it's not as popular as it could be is because it doesn't have enough voices for the price point. I don't think 4 voices is enough for me to have that take up that much space on my table. So for me, like, real estate on the table is a big deal. I want to play a show, I don't want to bring a bunch of stuff, and I want to have a lot of control. The Analog 4 doesn't have pattern mutes, which is something that I personally rely heavy on in my music production. I like to move to a new pattern and have things pre-muted. You can fake it with your kits and setting the track levels down, but then you have to remember that stuff. And like, it's just it has to become a part of your natural workflow and how you use it. I love the way the Analog 4 sounds. I just can get more out of my current setup than using it. Let's put it that way. You know, I'd be sad. I'd be remiss if I didn't say I was sad to actually let go of the Mark II. So I don't know if I actually will get rid of the Analog 4, but yeah, it's just, it'll probably never be a part of my like main setup because there's just other things I would pick over it for in terms of like just an analog polysynth, you know, because that's what it is. It's a multi-timbral polysynth that can do 4 notes. I don't know. Such 3 Octatracks, such a flex. It would be. And I will do that, and I will flex while I do it. That's right. I'll make sure I work out a bunch first before we do that. Let me keep going over this stuff for my lovely Patreon Patreon friends. You're the best. Thank you so much. And thank you for supporting me and buying this template on Ko-fi. And I just want to show you how much I appreciate you, because you make me want to keep doing this. It's just really wonderful. And but let me finish showing you what I did for you, my friends. And so there's some more effects. We already went over the phaser on this side, so we do have 2 phasers, delay on this side, a reverb on this side, And then we have sidechain and phaser with reverb. So yeah, we just finished that part. So let's move on to part 3, which is called Garage. Garage. So we have to move to part 3 here, and we have to make sure we move to part 3 here. And of course, we have our filter section. Let's just make sure they work. They definitely work. They both work. Okay, cool. So our filters work. Let's check out the reverb. Reverb works. So reverb A and B, reverb C and D. It's working. Cool. The other controls are just your controls that you'd want to use with your reverb in a live setting, like low pass, I think would be a good one. High pass, I think, is a set and forget setting in your reverb. You high pass your reverb because you don't want it to be a muddy ass reverb mix. So you set it there, but you don't need to play with it. Like, you don't need to tweak your reverb high pass. Maybe you do, but I think you'd have fun tweaking your reverb low pass because you can like make it huge and then kind of like bring it way down and get it real soft. At least that's how it works in the music I like to play. So below the reverb side, which spans both sides, we have our lo-fi section again. This is the garage part of the template, so this has got a lot of crazy effects. So listen to all these crazy effects. So it's got a bunch of crazy garagey effects, so a lot of lo-fi effects. Cool for doing lo-fi music. Cool for working with your modular as well. I'd say parts 2 and part 3 in the performance template are really geared towards experimental music. So a lot of modular stuff's can work really well, doing a lot of resampling type stuff. It's a lot of fun with this one because it does a lot of repitching and reversing of samples and phasing with reverse. There's some cool effects in there. You have to check it out yourself. So yeah, we have our lo-fi stuff. Let's just make sure it works. Just hang out with me while I test this. Looks like it's working. Yep. Oh, there's that distortion. It's too loud. It's almost useless. On the right side, we have a delay. Yeah. It's working. Oh, I'll talk to you about that Roland synth in a second. Okay, so this is spatial with spatializer with sample rate reduction. So this is a macro control. This is more like what you would make in the Octatrack. This one turned out good. I'm happy with that. High pass post reverb. Actually works pretty well with drums, so that one turned pretty good. These are macro controls in the SHIK controller. So this is a SHIK feature that's very reminiscent of what we do with Octatrack. Master filter settings. On the right side, we have chorus mix. So we have a chorus, nice. And then we have the chorus speed on the other side here. Cool, reload that part. Hey, I didn't find any bug. We found one bug, but I think it was with the template. It wasn't actually with the SHIK controller. So far I'm really happy because programming the MIDI controller and then having to redo the PDF file that goes along with it, because it usually means I put it on the wrong MIDI channel or something. So I have to go back into the draw.io that I use to make it and then save it as a PDF, re-zip the file, re-upload it everywhere. It's a hassle. So that this is working so far. This has been really nice. So we're already on the last part, which is where I found the last bugs. And then we're just gonna mess around, make some music, because this is what I wanted to show off and I'm almost done doing it. So here we are on part 4. So like I was saying with part 4, on the SHIK MIDI controller, what I did is to map part 4, get these going here. Sure, we reload our parts. So this is a master delay. So we have a mix, we have time, we have high pass and low pass of the delay. Because it's a master one, having high pass and low pass I think is pretty important, so we gotta move this to the next one. Here we go. wait a second here. There it is. Wait a second. Wait a second. I may have found another bug. Why did I have to screw up the techno section of all the things? I definitely screwed up a lot of stuff in my own personal template. That's from because I was messing with controls, testing it out, and when you do it, you know, it's absolute and it's takeover. So the values are changed based on what I did here. And then I don't know which one I turned because I turned all the knobs, and it's just so easy to screw stuff up. So you have to have the parts saved. So I have to go back in and make sure that all the settings are in their sweet spots with the parts saved. That's a really important thing to do. So I kind of clearly didn't do that right in my version of the template. We're gonna have to find out if someone else reports a bug or something. But I may have killed an effect because usually this is let me see something. Oh, we're in the wrong part. Maybe that's why. There we go. Okay, that's working. All right, I gotta go back over here real quick. And fix this. Okay. There we go. Okay. We're back. Okay, before we go to this last part, somebody asked about thoughts on the new Roland synth, Brian Bites. You know, I try to be pretty reserved about my opinions of stuff because I literally work at a synthesizer shop, so any negative opinion I have about something could potentially influence somebody not to pick something up, and that sucks to be a part of capitalism and shit in that regard. But I do have this soapbox that I get on, and some people do come and listen, and I do have an opinion on it. And I'll tell you what, the new Roland synth sounds really good. And I actually do like the way it looks. But it is a Roland groove box. And Roland groove boxes are just the worst thing to program, in my opinion. I have not used the new synthesizer, but if it is anything like any other groove box that they have come out with, then I already know I'm gonna be diving through 1,000 menus in a way that I just don't understand nor enjoy. And that part is hard for me. So a lot of people are Roland people. They get it, you know? I'm not one of those people. I'm a tracker person. I'm an Elektron person. Elektron's basically a tracker. So really, I get these boxes really well. I don't get the Roland workflow. Do I love Roland synths? Yes. I even have a JD-08. This thing was featured on Audio Pill's Bad Gear for the right reason. These pots, these faders, they're ridiculous. This is stupid. But does it sound dope? And is it a multi-timbral polysynth that fits on your desk and is powered over USB-C? Has audio over USB-C? Yes, it does. Multi-timbral, a billion voices? Yeah, Roland can do that kind of stuff. And they sound really great. So yeah, I like it. Would I maybe get the new Roland synth for a sound module? Yeah, maybe. That's something that would maybe work in my workflow. Would I program it and make a production on it? I don't think so. I think I'd rather just stick with my current workflow. I feel like you either buy into that ecosystem or you buy into this ecosystem. And if you buy into this ecosystem, you know, you're gonna have less choices, I guess. You're gonna have less choices than you get with with the Roland ecosystem. Roland ecosystem has a billion sounds. They just have an unlimited selection of synthesizers and synth voices and types of synthesis. You don't get that with Elektron, but what you get with Elektron is a really convenient and easy workflow. And workflow is what I'm all about. It's all about finding a good workflow. That's why I buy new stuff, because I think it's gonna improve my workflow. That's like what drives me to pick up a new piece of gear. Let's talk about something really quick before we jump over to the techno side and conclude this SHIK integration part of the stream. And then we're also gonna upload a thing to DistroKid. I have to do that. It's really important because DistroKid's awesome. And uploading music and putting it on platforms is also awesome. But there is another controller coming out called Relic. They're not gonna watch this stream to hear me talking about them, but I wish they would, so that they would consider me and send me one of their expensive units. But there's this thing called Relic. It looks a lot like a push, but it has an integrated mixer panel for Eurorack, and it has a bunch of LFOs, CV, and gates, but it's a 16-track polyphonic sequencer for your whole system. Really beautifully built, big screen on it, like the Push 2, but even bigger than the Push 2 screen, with some nice, beautiful OP1-esque graphics that show where you've routed your different connections. So you can do CV mixing on it. You can just plug in all your modules to its patch bay, have your oscillator outputs, your filter inputs, all routed into it, and then you can just route those sounds from your desk without actually going over to your modular system. So if you had some stuff like sitting in a sweet spot, or if you just wanted to route something directly in your computer really quick that wasn't usually routed into another filter in your modular, this thing would allow you to do that. Or you could sequence all your other gear. I wouldn't use it to sequence my Elektron gear. I would never sequence a piece of Elektron gear with anything other than itself. Like, I would only ever use its sequencer. Filling the notes in the sequencer, that's another story, because I actually have some stuff to talk about in that regard. I have some cool stuff that I'm actually working on for programming these controllers. That's exciting. So that's my thoughts on it. I think it's cool. I think it's pretty. I think it sounds really good. I just don't like working. I just don't like the Roland UX. I don't like how they do. I don't like how they do what they do. I like the sounds that they do, but I don't like how they make me get to them. All right, so the last part, we're on part 4. Here we go. Filters, they're working. Yes. Filters are working? Yes, filters are working. Filters are go. We have reverb on the left side. Reverb's working, we have reverb on the right side. This is the techno template for you techno lovers. Oh yeah. And then down below here we have chorus on the left side of things. So your chorus on your like drums and vocal samples. That doesn't sound like chorus to me. That very much didn't sound like chorus happening right there. Let's take a look. Let's find out what was happening. Damn. Okay. Well, we found another bug. They're all on the techno side. What an absolute pain in my ass. Chorus. Which is supposed to be on channel 4, FX1, chorus, techno, track 4. Fix me. It's 2 bugs today. We're squishing bugs. All right, let's check out the other ones. Reload that part. So this is supposed to be a master delay. It is indeed a master delay. Thank God that's not broken. Here's the time for it. Maybe I should use a tape delay for the master. Let's try it again. That's kind of cool. All right, so this next section is a master flanger. It's working. Okay, we're good with that. High pass with reverb. That's working. Low pass with reverb. Sidechain pumping on the techno side. This is new. We didn't have sidechain pumping in the techno template, but it was there all along. I just hadn't made it available. But now it's available through here. If you don't have a SHIK controller and you don't want to use a MIDI controller, you can turn up the sidechain pumping by going to track 3 and adjusting the depth of LFO 1. That's what controls the sidechain pumping. Okay, cool, that worked. So this is a bass width filter here. So it's high passing and low passing. So at a certain part, unless you turn up the Q, now it's like a bandpass filter, right? When the Q's turned up. Turn the Q down, and it's just kind of a weak bandpass filter. But it works. God damn it, it works. Sidechain. Hear that like crunchy bit stuff? That's just Octatrack DSP having a struggle fest. Sometimes what you have to do is, to make that go away, is to actually switch out of that effect and then go back to that effect. And then you won't have that problem anymore. I don't know why it happens, what causes that, but it does. So this is it. That's the SHIK MIDI controller integration. As you can see, there's like 2 or 3 bugs in it. They're not huge bugs. And you saw what they were. You could fix them on your own really quick if you had a SHIK controller and you had already downloaded my files. I will fix them maybe by the end of the night. If not, I'll put them up tomorrow. They're not on coffee, like I said, because I didn't anticipate it being ready yet, and I was right. It's not ready. So it is in 2.3.1 version, but I think 2.3.2 is going to be the final version. And then I'm gonna be done working on this template and moving on to the new template entirely. Matthew Allen, what's up, my dude? Are you enjoying your SHIK time? I am. I am enjoying the SHIK time. So speaking of SHIK, let's continue talking about the SHIK for a second. So to load up the SHIK controller, all you have to do is plug it in. It's a USB micro. Plug it into your computer. Go to, just Google SHIK MIDI controller. Go to their website. Find the End32B web editor on their website. It's very easy to find. As soon as you do that, it automatically sees your SHIK because it's just over USB. And then you're gonna have these options for sync, which is gonna allow you to sync the current presets that are in your SHIK with the web editor. And then you have an option to upload, which is gonna take what's on the web editor and upload it into one of the presets on the SHIK. Then you can also save your templates as well. Make sure you name them, otherwise you will get lost very easily. And that's all there is to it. It's really that easy to program. It's just more of a pain in the ass to figure out what you want to program, remembering the MIDI controllers, finding the CC messages. I have an Octatrack paperback manual, so I just have the CC messages just sitting in front of me the whole time, so I'm not bouncing back and forth on a PDF on the computer. So that I found really convenient. I lucked out when I bought my second Octatrack. It came with the paperback manual, and that was a really cool gift. Burke of Motion. Wish Roland would just make stackable sound modules, boutiques that you can stack on top of each other in modern day racks. Yeah, that would be cool. You know what Roland did make that no one's paying attention to? Their awesome modular setup. I mean, their 500 series of modules, they're insane. They're actually on sale at Patrick's right now. You should get them. They're like really cheap at Patrick's. Hope Roland can't hear me say that. Go to Patrick's, look it up. Limitation is the number of voices is compensated by the depth of the instrument. This is the most flexible machine when it comes to setting up your own tones and analog, but I heard your approach. In the depth of the instrument. Yeah, I like that. That's good. I'll believe it when I see it beyond a render. Oh, I see what you're saying, the relic. Yeah. Well, they do have pictures of them building the relic that I've looked at, and I spoke with that. I joined their Discord. I mean, who knows? You're right. Maybe it's not. Maybe they won't have it come into fruition. I've thought about that too, where I was like, it's such an elegant and well-built looking piece of gear that, to me, for it to be like, to not have a lot of money behind it from the get-go seems like almost magical. Like they'd have to have had thousands, you know, a good backer with some cash to really bankroll that project into fruition, because it's really nice. And for them to actually get them out to people, they have to make a lot of them to get their money back, which would be really expensive. I'm currently in the process of developing my own line of Eurorack modules, and me and my buddy have been working on it for a while. And we're kind of at the point where we're seeing how much our module is going to cost us to build. And right now it's a couple $100 just for one module, just to build it. That's also because of the depth of what we're doing is a little bit, you know, maybe beyond the scope of somebody's first module, but we're crazy. But it can be really expensive. So we don't have that much money behind it, but we'll just start off with some friends, maybe buying a couple here and there. But that's it. That's the SHIK Integration. You can find it on my Patreon. It's available right now if you want to pick it up and you have a SHIK controller. If you just want to see the CC messages, go ahead and just download it off my Patreon. You can find it in the Discord Patreon files chat room. If you're a Patreon, you have access to that. Otherwise, it won't let you in. You'll buy one, bro. Oh, thanks, Matt. I know you will. I know you will. You wouldn't even let me give you one if I wanted to, which is very kind of you. We're again in my new studio, and I need to get more acoustic paneling because I know there's some more reflections in here than my old place, but all in all, I like it more, and I think it's a nice vibe. It's not so hot in here. Usually I would just get so distracted by the amount of heat that gets generated by all the machines that I have in here. I have an SSL Big 6. That thing is literally just pumping heat. That's just what it does. It just sits there and just dumps hot air. And so does my computer. And this room naturally is a little bit colder, so it just kind of warms it up to like a more sustainable temperature. But yeah, so happy to have everybody here. All of the new music that I've been working on lately has been with the M8, but I did want to share a little bit of live coding stuff with you. So I've been revisiting ORCA. As you may know, I have one of my second most popular thing I've ever done on YouTube is my ORCA tutorial. And I used to be way more into ORCA than I am now because I was just using it a lot and it was really exciting. And now I've just spent less time on my computer, and it requires you to be at a computer at this current time in ORCA's state. I did email 100 Rabbits late last night asking them if they would ever consider returning back to building some sort of Eurorack module that would allow you to program ORCA with a keyboard, you know, kind of like a teletype would, but with ORCA. I know you can do it on Norns, but the screen on Norns is so tiny. I can't handle that. Not for ORCA. You got to see way more. For me. And there's plenty of people that would disagree with that. But I do have ORCA set up right now. Let me see if I pop over to it. Just go. Oh, that doesn't look right, does it? Wait, does it look right for you? Let's see. It does. So this is ORCA. I have ORCA running into my Syntakt. You may have seen that USB controller. I have to have a keyboard to make ORCA function. This keyboard's pretty loud. So you may have to bear with me in that regard. But yeah, so you're gonna hear a lot of clicky clackety stuff because this is my mechanical keyboard, it's the one I have here. But right now it is running in Syntakt. You will hear it. It's not gonna be on the right patch, so it's gonna sound stupid. Or maybe you won't hear it, let's see. No, that sounds terrible. So let's go to the one that it's supposed to be on, which I think is 16.6. Yeah, so this is what I'm programming in ORCA right now. Let's go back over to the Syntakt to kind of change up some of the sounds a little bit. So you can see what I'm doing here. ORCA is running into the Syntakt. So we could build some sort of baseline sequencer. I don't want you guys to not be able to see it, so we'll do it over here. We'll do something simple. I can't see very well, so I'm not gonna build anything complex like a shift register or something like that, because that would be pretty cool. But right now I'm putting in a track module. So I'll kind of talk you through what I'm doing here. So, what we got going on here, it's a bunch of nonsense, I know. Probably just mind-blowing for people. If I put down a T, I put down what's called a track module, and a track module allows me to put in a row of inputs. So I can say I want the track to be 5, 6, 7, 8 steps long. So this are all the amount of steps that this track can get to. But I need to tell it to get to certain steps. So if I clock it with a clock module, it's gonna move through that sequencer. If I give it a 2 or a 4, it's gonna divide that clock speed. So here we are moving at half speed. You can see our actual speed is 140 BPM. It's at the bottom right of the screen, you can see that. So I got that moving, and what we want is some bass notes. And we are playing with a C chord. It's a C suspended, wait. It's a couple of different chords. It's going from a C major 7 to a suspended 4th, to a suspended 4 flat 5 add 9, to a major 7, and a 7 suspended 4th. Anyway, so I'm using the chord machine, and I'm having it send MIDI CC messages and MIDI notes at the same time. I'm sequencing both of these things, which is fun because you can build all sorts of kinds of sequencers. This track sequencer with the clock input, this is the easiest sequencer to use. And all you need to do is download ORCA, it's free. I do recommend paying for it, but it is free. All you have to do is plug in a USB cable right into one of your Elektron boxes, use control and period in ORCA. That's the command, control button plus period, and move through your MIDI messages, and Syntakt or Digitakt or whichever you're controlling will just pop up. And from there, it's just a MIDI controller. Just think of it that way. So you gotta learn how to build these sequencers though. So let's try and, we could put some notes in here, but I want it to be routed to some sort of bass synthesizer. So we need to create some sort of bassy sound on here that we like. I'm gonna use the analog engine on track 11. They added that raw oscillator, but I still think the dual VCO is the best. So I think we want to use a D sharp and an F and a sharp. D sharp, F, and an A sharp. Let's start with those notes. Let's go. So that'd be a lowercase d for a D sharp, and we'll put in a uppercase F for an F, and a lowercase a for an A sharp or B flat. And then we have, so right now this is just sending some note messages down to the bottom of this panel here. It doesn't mean anything until we give it a MIDI message. So here I am with the MIDI operator, which it also needs to be pinged and told to do stuff. We could just use a Euclidean sequencer on that for now. Keep things really simple. So this is, Euclidean sequencing is cool. If you don't know how Euclidean sequencing works, it takes a step length and then an event amount, and those events try to get evenly distributed amongst the step length, and that's how Euclidean sequencing works. So it's kind of a geometric-esque sequencing. So right, you can see it's triggering, the Euclid event is triggering here. So now I'm giving it 8 spaces. It defaults to 8 if you don't put anything in there. So we can give it 9 and have 5 events try to make it into 9, which is just gonna be weird. So maybe we want this to be a little bigger. Have it be like A. This uses a base 36. Wait, is it the other way around here? That works. All right, so we want it to go to channel 11. So that's gonna actually be A, I believe. We want octave 3. There it is. There's our bass line. Let's have this clock move a little faster. I'm gonna have this randomly assign the length of the clock's willing to go. We'll go all the way up to 8. Yes, you can build the SHIK controllers yourself. Oh, I like that. That sub bass type sound. I feel like we need like a really like odd time, slow melody. So let's build another sequencer, shall we? Let's build a little more of a more interesting sequencer. We could have this change octaves if we wanted. Let's move this over and then we'll kind of like inject the ability to change octaves. So I'm just gonna cut it and we'll move it down over here, paste it back. And I'm gonna use an X operator, which is gonna allow me to move a letter or a number or an operand, move an operator with an offset. So I'm gonna offset something, and what I'm gonna offset is the octave section in this MIDI operator. You can see that it's 3. Right now we're playing octave 3 on this bass line. So what I need is something to change the 3 for me. That's easier said than done, right? So we need to know we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4 down. This is a X and Y axis. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over. Let's see. Let's go 4 down. Okay, 3 down. my bad. So that means 6 over. Yeah, I was right. Thank the Lord. Now we'll just use a random operator and let it go between some of these octaves. Is that not working? Now we have 2 octaves with our bass line. That's kind of cool. Cool how you can do that, right? I just randomized the octave for my bass line. I love that shit. How does ORCA compare to Sonic Pi? I'm not familiar with Sonic Pi, so I cannot answer that. We should change the name of the stream. To ORCA. Livecoding Syntakt. Because that's what we be doing. I think it sounds pretty cool so far. This is what I love about ORCA, is that you can't make a sound like this. You can't make this on the Octatrack or the Syntakt or DistroKid. You just can't make these sounds. They're too randomized. And being forced to work in a live coding environment like ORCA, where you have to learn this esoteric language to program sequences, is also forces you to make a different kind of music. It makes you just get, it's like the OP1, like the kind of music you make on the OP1, you don't make on anything else, because the OP1 forces you into these little cubbies that you have to work in. All right, let's make another sequencer. So we're gonna make a sequencer kind of like these boxes up here. If you can see this box right here, we're gonna make something like this box. Actually, we could just copy this box and repurpose it as a sequencer. Right now, that box is sequencing velocity messages for hi-hats and MIDI offsets for chords, right? It's kind of cool. So I don't want to put the camera over it, so I will just paste this over here. And we'll change this to a different value, because that's important. That's important. All right, so what we'll put in here, we know C sharp, F, and A sharp works. Let's put a couple of those in there. C, F, A, what else? Probably G sharp. Let's go A. I think C too. And C sharp, F, A, and I guess maybe I don't know. Let's do another F, I guess. I think it's a D. Okay, so those are going to be the notes that it chooses. It's moving rather quickly. Oh no, we need that to be 6. Okay. Ooh. Slow this clock down. So now we've got this clock kind of glitching out. That's kind of cool. All right, so it's spitting out a value into this V operand, which is like an operand you can reuse. So I can take a V and move it somewhere else and just like take outputs from V anywhere on ORCA. So it's really useful. It's actually got a name. It is called variable, I guess. That's what it stands for, is variable. So we're gonna take that variable output, we're gonna make another MIDI operator. And how we trigger the MIDI operator, that's a lot of fun with ORCA, is like how do you, how are you gonna wanna trigger your operators? Do you wanna sequence the triggering, or do you wanna sequence the voices? Do you want the voices and the operators to be sequenced at the same time? So when a note gets picked, it also triggers the sequencer, or do you want them to be independent, two different sequencers, like a modular sequencer? This is very modular-esque working in ORCA, I think. So for instance, if we wanted to make this, right now we're just gonna use this V operand, we're gonna dump out a C value, and that's gonna spit out, do we have another one? Do I have to put it on the other side here? Yeah, okay. So we have the C spitting this out. It's in the wrong spot. There we go. The C is spitting out. Wait, what is happening here? Oh, I put in a C. I want a V. And we want this to be a C. There it is. Oh my God. It's because I'm not putting in lowercase c's. There we go. Okay, so it's spitting out the notes from within this little section that I set up. And we'll use a jumper. Jump, and then we'll use a yumper, and then we'll put a track sequencer here. We'll make it like jumpers and yumpers. Not even kidding, that's literally what they're called. And then we'll clock this. It's got 6 values. That works for me. We want to control a new synthesizer. We'll just use track 2. We'll start with the tone sequencer synthesizer on the Syntakt, see what happens. I'm going to use this track sequencer. I'm gonna put little asterisks in it, and those are gonna represent triggers. So we'll use MIDI channel 2, which is actually MIDI channel 1. Octave 3 to start. I don't know which note sucks, but one of them sucks. Is it these A's? Let's just get rid of them all. What note is that? Is this D? Pretty cool, right? This is live coding with the Elektron Syntakt. So real quick, let's switch over. I just want to, we're gonna upload this track that I made called Something Beautiful, which I wrote using ORCA and the Elektron model cycles. So I'm gonna switch over to that real quick. Yeah, so here we go. Let's see if it transitions it correctly. So here we are in DistroKid, and it's so easy. It's so darn easy to do this. Let me see. Will it let me move this over here so I can see it better? Cool. Yeah, so here's where we go. So I'm in DistroKid, and right now I can just upload a track. This is gonna be so quick. So it's gonna upload to all these different streaming services, tons of streaming services. It even knows, I don't like that I don't get to be capital EZBOT, which is such a bummer, because somebody else has my name, and Battle of the Trap remixes, so whatever. But it does recognize that I am EZBOT, that's me, Temporary Aphasia is one of my tracks on Spotify. And it knows who I am on Apple Music and YouTube. I'll say, yes, that's me. On Instagram, we could enter my release this thing with other EZBOT releases on Instagram. I have never done that before, so I don't really care to do that. I don't think that's gonna do anything for me. My Instagram's not a big deal. So I don't care about this, and I don't care about that. The release date is today. This record labels thing, this actually doesn't mean anything. That's just for you, for fun. I do have some artwork, so I'm gonna go into Release Me on DistroKid. Here's the artwork for Something Beautiful. It says EZBOT right on there. My language is English, because that's the only one I know. What's my genre? I would say that it is very much electronic. And the subgenre would definitely be, what would it be, actually? None of those. None of these choices. Psytrance, reggae, tech house? Maybe I'm not electronic. Maybe it's something else. Let's see. It's a very, like, ambient, but electronic sound. Darn. Huh, singer-songwriter, spoken word world. I'm gonna stick with electronic. Let's just see if I... Glitch hop? I guess it's electronica. Electronica downtempo, that would work. Okay, track title. Something Beautiful. Oops. Something Beautiful. Nice. No, no, no. And then I choose the audio file. There it is. It's already been mastered. If you don't have something mastered, you can actually get it mastered on DistroKid. It has one of those instant mastering services. They actually don't sound bad. I tried it out. It's really not that bad. I mean, of course, you might get some better results paying an expensive engineer, but it's real cheap. They'll bring you up to the loudness level that you need to be in order for it to be on streaming services. So that part's really cool. I wrote this song. There's no lyrics. It is just an ambient piece. No, it's not a radio edit. Track price, sure, I'll sell it for $1. Why not? Can add this discovery pack so it gets acknowledged in different catalogs. I'm gonna do that. It's only 99 cents a year. Well, no, actually I'm not. Do I want to do that? Maybe I do. Beatport, unlimited downloads? Yeah. No, I don't need any of this stuff. These are extras. They're optional, and they're awesome, but I don't need any of them for this track. So I know I selected that, I did this, I did this, I do this, I hit done. Wait, missing songwriter name? Oh. Doi. There's me, Matthew Mario Pecora. We did it. Oh my God. Holy smokes. Look at that. When will this single be released? Wow. Wonderful. Look at how easy it was. I just released music. For real. That's the real deal. That is going to be on every service, basically, that anybody listens to music on, now has one more EZBOT track that you can listen to, made using Livecoding and the model cycles. So now we got tracks with model cycles all over the internet. Let's do it. So yeah, so easy to do. I really love DistroKid, and they're sponsoring these streams, so like everybody needs to love on them. How cool is it that DistroKid is sponsoring Elektron Talks? It's the coolest thing ever. So I'm like so happy about that. I love them for that. Really cool. All right, let's get back to what we're doing. But oh, whoops. There we go. And oh my God, I do love the look of the SHIK N32B. What a pretty little controller. This is the walnut one. I don't know if they're going to keep doing the walnut controller. I think he's switching over to metal enclosures because they're more durable. Because these walnut enclosures, they can break because they are just wood. But yeah, cool to have the metal ones. I'm glad to have the wood one, you know, for as long as it survives before I do something stupid and I break it. But they're a nice build. I think they're cool. I like the guy or gal or whomever, whoever makes this. I don't know them, just on Instagram, but I like them on Instagram. I like the interactions I'm having. And I look forward to working with them more, possibly getting them in the Modbank shop. Speaking of Modbank, check this out. So I redesigned my patch cables. These patch cables glow in the dark, all except for the transparent ones. But besides this being a commercial for my own business, this is just cool in general because I put the effort in to make this cool. These are super duper slim heads, like incredibly slim. Put them like this so you can see it. They're super slim plugs. They're as slim as they could get. They're literally the slimmest you could possibly get to still not like just have these things fall apart, because if you go too thin, they just will break. So the strain relief exists inside the plug, so it's like the minimum amount of strain relief to still keep the cable from breaking and work. So basically what I did is I redesigned all of my patch cables that I sell in the Modbank shop. These ones I love. I love these because I redesigned these right angle ones. Many iterations went through, many different molds that I have to go through before I found something I really liked. So I wanted to be able to have the thinnest and coolest looking patch cables available. And I feel like I did that because I really do like them. And they have these really thin heads, which means that they can fit into congested patch bays. And they also glow in the dark. So if you have a black light or just leave them on in the light for a while and turn off the lights, then they make this cool, colorful look, and it's nice for your modular. But with a black light, they're really black light reflective or UV reactive. So if you're playing a show and you have some black lights, which we sell in our shop too, attached to your modular system, all of your patch cables will light up. Like bright, brighter than the LED ones, which actually siphon a little bit of your CV. So even those cool LED lights, they can't be used for pitch tracking. Plus they're like incredibly expensive, and these are just the price of normal patch cables. But that's my spiel on my patch cables. I love them, and so should you. And these clear ones are they're just so pretty. They're so transparent. Let's play a song on my Elektron boxes. I feel like playing a track. I wish that I was playing with the M8 because I don't have the M8 routed into this. I do want to show off version 3.0 of the firmware for the M8 is so good. It's so good. He added a new hypersynth, which is his chord synthesizer. And somebody actually asked me, Mikey303, who's amazing at the M8, asked me if the chords that I was playing for him were my Prophet 5. That's incredible. It's literally it's literally a little digital synth that's paraphonic. It doesn't even have a filter per voice. And he was asking if it's a Prophet 5. Like, That's how good it sounds. This guy's just Tim from Dirty Wave. Just a genius, man. The guy is out of control how good he is at this stuff. Amazing programmer, amazing musician, and great sound designer. So I would trade places with him. I would. I want to be you, Tim. It's so cool. I love the M8. So that's the thing I've been playing with a lot lately, and I am gonna integrate it into my system more. I might play some tracks with it. I am playing a show day after tomorrow. Yeah, day after tomorrow at the 4Bs in Fremont in Seattle. With who Matthew Allen would be playing, but Matthew Allen is ill, sadly. That's who's in the chat here. He would be playing on this bill. But Mikey303 will be playing. And so we might both have some M8s at the show, playing some live M8. I know, sad face. We'll get you in the next one. I'd love to do that. And so Mikey303, Wet Paint, who's an awesome house producer, all hardware, no computers. I'm not like all about Dallas or anything. I don't care about Dallas. I love Bitwig and Ableton. They're amazing DAWs. And I use them all the time. But I love hardware live production, and that's what we do at these shows. It's strictly hardware. It's meant to be that experience. People are screwing up. Things aren't working all the time. All sorts of crappy shit happens, but it's also really fun and really cool. And when it's a flawless performance, it's so impressive. And it feels really good. So it gives you a reason to use your hardware and gives you a reason to buy a flight case and take them with you. So we're playing at the 4Bs on Tuesday the 28th at 7 p.m. Come on down. It's a free show. It is 21 and over. It's just a bar. It does have some pool tables and some arcades, so if you want to do that and get away from the music, you can, and it actually works to do that. They have a great sound system. Oh, and Shoye. I always think I'm saying that wrong. Shoye, who's another great producer and my neighbor, will be playing this show as well. And we'll probably get on some more bills as time passes. So Shoye will be playing. So EZBOT, Mikey303, Shoye, and Wet Paint, the 4Bs Tuesday, 4 hardware electronic music producers in a row, taking up a couple hours of your night. You can grab yourself a beer and a pizza or whatever, or a drink of water, sparkling water like me. I just chug sparkling water all night. And dance your ass off to some great music. Please do. Please come on down. So I do want to play a song. I'm going to switch off of doing live coding. That's a lot of fun to do, but I also think it can be hard to follow. So I feel like I want to start from scratch. I'll do another stream with ORCA, and we'll do some more live coding on ORCA live on stream. But I would like to do that from scratch, starting from zero, maybe go through the whole thing and make some like beautiful ambient piece together. That would be a lot of fun. And I think a lot of people would get a lot from that and reinvigorate the ORCA community because I don't see much about it anymore. I don't see 100 Rabbits talking about it. I don't see other people using it. I don't see Instagram posts about it like I did for a while. It was really popular, and I would love to see it get popular again because it's so cool. And I would like to see it ported to more things. I know they did make it so you could port it into like a video game. I think you could put it on a Game Boy or something at this point using UXN. I'm not sure how that works. I'm not a coder. But here we go. I'm going to play a track. I'm going to go over to my live set. And I do have my MIDI controller, so now I can add more to it. I don't know this track very well. Like, I wrote the track, but I don't know how to perform it out very well because I've only performed it a handful of times. But I love the music itself. Shake in the Trees Multimedia. You're welcome for the OT info. I'm happy to be helpful. record a loop. I was like, why are my drums high pass? They were. I mean, my SHIK's not for sale, but yeah, you can buy them from the SHIK website. Cool. That went decently well for being super unpracticed. I'm gonna reload these projects. I do not want to save anything I did on accident. There's another trick to this. It's just called unplugging. If you just unplug these, it'll default back to the original song, because it won't have saved it into the RAM. If you plug it, if you power this down, it will save the project in the RAM so you can start back where you were. But if you unplug it, it doesn't make it to the RAM. The ramifications. Don't see the links there. Oh, yeah. No, I don't have any links to it. You just gotta look up SHIK MIDI controller, SHIK. You'll find it. You'll find it. The only thing I have links for is to Elektron boxes. Pretty much. Because those are the things that I like the most. That was sweet. Thank you. Thanks a lot. That's one of my newer tracks, and maybe I'll do a perfect performance of it and I can master it, and then we can put it on DistroKid together like we did with with our other project here, which was pretty cool. That was cool. How easy it is to release music if you have a bunch of people watching you do it. You just do it, you know. I would have thought about it forever if I was just sitting in my house, sitting by myself. Like, do I do this? Should I remaster it? Should I have my friend master it? It's like, nah. I said I was gonna do it. Let's just release the music. SHIK is similar to Fader Fox. Fader Fox has got some more. Well, no, I think they both have about the same amount of control at this point, but it depends. Fader Fox has a lot more options for controls. But they both use 3.5 MIDI, and they both can do basically the same things. It depends. If you're getting an EC4 Fader Fox, then you have you can do relative messages as opposed to absolute messages. So you can adjust from a value rather than starting at where the pots are. That's what relative versus absolute would be. Absolute will snap to whatever this value is. A relative pot would is what these are. These are relative values. They just adjust from the point that they're at, a little bit that way, a little bit that way, which is a lot better, which is what you want. I want relative values on my controller. That would be ideal. That would be the most ideal, 100%. There's some things I'd like absolute values, like mix, who cares? Like the mix is fine, I don't need it. Absolute, I'm okay with that. It's not who cares, but I still prefer relative values, but. What does the SHIK do? MIDI controller knobs for individual parameters. In this setup, the SHIK is got some parameters that control my performance template. I don't know what we're playing right there. So I could high pass this side, and then high pass this side. This is what the SHIK is doing for me. So I can do this. And kind of mix those controls in with my Octatrack template. It just gives me more control than I had before I was using the SHIK. But you have to remember to reload your parts all the time. Otherwise, it will be more disruptive than helpful, because it'll be destructive. Oh boy, this has been a good episode. We're at 9 o'clock. It's been 2 hours. I told myself I'm not going to go over 2 hours, so we'll do this again next Sunday. At 7 o'clock. I will be doing this at minimum twice a month because DistroKid sponsors these streams now, which I can't smile about enough. Just really grateful to have some support in these live streams. It's just really cool. So at least twice a month we'll be doing this, but I'm trying to do it every single weekend. If anybody has some topics they want me to tackle, if we want to look at some stuff, I'm thinking next week we're probably going to look at the M8. I think we're going to play with the M8 and go ham. Let's try and write a track on the M8 during the live stream. I don't know what kind of track that we'll make. Maybe we'll try it. I've been wanting to make like some minimal techno on the M8. I think we'd be really good at that. Or dub techno on the M8 would be really fun. So maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll work on the new template. Maybe we'll make some music on Elektron Box. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So if you've got some ideas, throw them at me in the EZBOT Discord. There'll be a link in the comments after the stream is done. Yeah, so be sure to join us at the 4Bs on the 28th in Fremont for a live show with a lot of great performers. Free show, 7 o'clock. And if you're going to shop for synthesizers, start at Patchworks. If it's not there, then go to your favorite shop. But Patchworks is a great place to start. That's where I work. And you'll definitely be supporting our business and keeping me in a job. And yeah, use DistroKid, I guess, too. But so good to have everybody here on stream. We'll do some generative ambient. That would be cool. Yeah, it's a good idea. And yeah, Performance Template 2.3.1 is available on my Patreon. If you're not on the Patreon, do it. Jump on in. Otherwise, you can grab my template in its current state, which is pretty awesome. The way it is now in 2.2 on Ko-fi or Coffee, however you want to say it, it's Buy Me a Coffee. So on Coffee, so check that out if you're interested in that. You can get some cool Modbang MIDI cables from my web shop at modbang.com. And patch cables and all that, all sorts of fun stuff. Otherwise, just hang out with us in the Discord and chat. And if you have questions about Elektron gear, ask them in my Discord. You're sure to get an answer. There's so many amazing musicians in there that are just full of knowledge. A lot of folks know way more than me about all sorts of stuff, so you don't necessarily need to get answers from me. There's plenty of people in there that just have like gigantic brains. So feel free to drop in, ask some questions, hang out, share your music, share your YouTube channel with us, share your Twitch streams with us. All that stuff is welcome in my Discord. It's all about community. It's all about sharing music. It's all about helping each other grow. So any way I can help you, I'd like to do that. All I ask is that you be kind. Don't say a bunch of weird shit or be predatory or be an asshole. If you cannot be any of those things, you're welcome to hang out in the Discord. And I'd love to have you. Otherwise, I will see you all next Sunday, hopefully around 7 o'clock. Thanks for hanging out in the stream. I hope you enjoy the SHIK template. I'm gonna try and fix the few little bugs that we found on stream. And I hope the little mini ORCA tutorial was fun. And be more ORCA coming your way, I promise, because I've been having fun doing it. Otherwise, see y'all next Sunday.